All right, the Pete Sousa Show, powered by Slovacix, is back, and we're back with King McClure. King is out at a restaurant in the and I'm guessing somewhere in North Texas. Where are you eating right now?
Man, I'm at Ascension, man. I'm at the coffee place Ascension.
Oh.
They actually have this breakfast hash, right? I know it's like 142, but they have this breakfast hash that I just found out about, Pete, and I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. And last time you saw me, I was a little too big. Like I was getting a little too chunky.
You look like you can still play, man.
No, listen, you're right. I carry my weight really well, but I don't feel it. Like I feel the excess weight, and it's not good for me because I got a heart disease, Pete. So I gotta figure it out. I gotta eat healthier, and that's what I'm doing here, trying to eat healthy.
By the way, King and I are the only. God willing, we'll get to call some more games again together this year. We're the only play-by-play and color analyst duo that both have defibrillators. I mean, you will not find that anywhere else.
For sure. I mean, defibrillators, man, and it's actually crazy when you told me that. And I think we're like the tallest, like, duo of – actually, maybe not, because I feel like you work with some people that are pretty tall. Because I was shocked by your height. I was shocked by how tall you were when I first met you.
Man, King, I love working with you, and I love your basketball takes, and I want to take you inside and kind of put you in the time machine. You're on Baylor's basketball team, and you're playing a game basically a road game against Gonzaga in the first game of the year, and you get beat up like Baylor did in that game. What do you think Coach Drew was telling the guys after that game?
Well, you know what, Pete? It's one of those things where, like, if I'm Coach Drew, I'm not too concerned. And the reason why is because when you look at that, right, they could have played the game at the Kennel at Gonzaga, but they chose to play the game in the arena in Spokane, which adds an extra 5,000 to 10,000 seats, I want to say. So now it's about 15,000 to 20,000 people that genuinely hate Baylor. Why do they hate Baylor? Because of what we did to them in the championship game, right? So honestly, if you're Coach Drew, the odds of you winning that game are slim to none. You're dealing with a bunch of new guys in a day and era where transfer portal is the way, right? A bunch of new guys who have never played together. Yes, they've had scrimmages, but they've never actually been in a real game atmosphere together, right? And you're going against 20,000 people, plus one of the best teams in the country who have an experienced backcourt. The addition of Caleb Battle is so huge for Gonzaga because that just provides more perimeter scoring, something that they really needed last year. So Gonzaga is a top 5 team in the country who we can really see in the Final Four. So you're playing against a top 5 team in the country, a potential Final Four candidate, against them and 20,000 people in your first game of the season. That is a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what happened, right? So if I'm Coach Drew, I'm not necessarily concerned about the loss that we took at Gonzaga. It would be all about the response. I think the game against Arkansas was bigger than the first one because you wanted to see how these guys responded, and you wanted to see how they play in an environment that's more conducive to what you'll see throughout the season, right? I mean, the game against Arkansas, now you're playing in Dallas. It's still a neutral site game, but it's closer to your home crowd. You're playing against a top 15 team in Arkansas who has draft picks all over the floor. And that was the key thing, that if we lose that game, now all of a sudden, if I'm Coach Drew, I'm a little bit more concerned. So for me, it was all about the response, and I think they responded really well, Pete.
What do you think about, those are you were coached by these guys, Baylor's assistant coaches in the offseason, right? You get an opportunity at Kentucky, you're going to take it. You get an opportunity to be a head coach at a good school, you're going to take it. So 2 of Baylor's key assistants are gone. How does someone like Coach Drew respond to that? I mean, does it not skip a beat, or does it skip a beat? How does he handle that? Because those guys were major.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that makes Coach Drew so special, is that when he hires guys, he expects them not to stay there for forever. He allows and empowers guys while they're working underneath him. It's almost like a partnership, Pete. Like when I played for Scott Drew, and there will be days where Jerome Tang ran practice or he ran the scout. So when you run the scout, like you're running the practice. There will be days where Alvin Brooks did the same thing, or even a John Jacobs. So because he empowers you and lets you have the freedom to be able to run the scout, run practice how you want to, and set things up the way that you would want to set things up, these guys go on to to go to their own programs, and they're able to have success. Even like a Grant McCaslin, a Paul Mills. I mean, it was the same thing throughout my 4 years at Baylor with all these assistant coaches who we're now seeing have success at their own school. So if you're Scott Drew, knowing that you have this expectation of they're probably going to leave, they're probably going to have their own program, now all of a sudden it's what do you do next? So it's preparing, it's being able to find those guys in which you see the qualities in, the qualities that you saw in the other coaches. You see qualities in a guy like Melvin Hunt, who he brings on staff. You see like a guy like Steve Henson, right, who comes from different programs, UCSA, who was at Oklahoma when they were successful. I mean, you get guys in which whom you believe in that have those same qualities that you see in everybody else. I mean, Jared Nunes is probably a guy who will be next on the totem pole. He'll be next to probably leave and get his own program, and I think he'll do one hell of a job, just like everybody else. I mean, Tweety Carter. Like, these are guys in which Coach Drew sees qualities in and is able to pick out, just like he saw in Jerome Tang and Grant McCaslin and Paul Mills. I mean, that's just part of the cycle, but Coach Drew's resiliency, his ability to bounce back, is so remarkable. And I think it's something that we don't value, we don't talk about that much.
Yeah, it's great to get a perspective from someone like you who actually was there to see it as a young man, and you're seeing someone like Coach Drew be so comfortable in his own skin to empower these guys, these assistants. How does that affect you? Does it make you believe even more?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Drew inspires me, man. I mean, just seeing like where he took Baylor from, being able to take it from nowhere to now one of the premier programs in college basketball. I mean, inspiration is probably the word that I look to and I use when I talk about Scott Drew, just because he's able to be himself and like he's so genuine, right? I think it's very rare nowadays to be able to see a man that has so much success, but he's being true to himself while having all of this success, right? So I think it shows us that you don't have to try to fit in. You don't have to try to fake it. You can be true to who you are. You can be genuine and still reach the same heights, the same levels as people who aren't that way, people who fake it to make it. You know, so I think that when you look at Scott Drew and everything that he's accomplished and what he's continuing to accomplish year after year, even when he loses coaches, loses guys, and his adaptability to be able to, hey, all right, these are the new rules. This is how the transfer portal is going to go. This is how NIL is going. I'm going to adapt and still be able to stay at the top. That's inspiring.
Yeah. Let's get onto the floor now. Some of these guys who he's inspiring this year, some first-time players under Coach Drew. VJ Edgecombe is a guy everybody's talking about. So is Jeremy Roach. But who is King McClure most excited to see?
Well, the two guys that I love, number one is Norchad Omier. Not saying I don't love VJ and Jeremy Roach. I think both those players are great and special. But Norchad Omier, I mean, you saw in the Arkansas game, that is a grown man. That is a guy who is relentless on the glass. And when he scores down low, he can really bump you and get you off, knock you off. His finishing is great. He's only about 6'5", 6'6". When I went out there this past summer to play with him a little bit, he was kind of small. He was smaller than I expected, but he's bigger in stature. And he's strong, very strong legs, can really finish through, can power through the defense. I mean, he's one of those guys that you know what you're going to get every single time he steps on the floor. It's an absolute double-double machine. And the other kid I really like is Rob Wright. I think that this kid has potential to be special. I mean, you look at his pace, the pace that he plays with as a freshman, the confidence that he plays with, and I really think that we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, his ability to be able to get into the lane whenever he wants, the herky-jerkiness with his movement, I mean, his handle, his quickness, his finishing through contact. I mean, we see all of the things that you need in order to be a great guard, and he's only 18. I mean, he's so young, but hasn't even scratched the surface. So I think as time progresses, and as we go amongst the season, I think we're going to see Rob Wright have some really big breakout games. And I think the challenge that Coach Drew is going to have is how do you play Rob Wright and Jeremy Roach at the 1 and 2? Because typically that's a small lineup. I mean, 6 foot, 6'1", and then you have Jaden Nunn at the 3, or BJ Edgecombe was only like 6'3", 6'4" at the 3. But how do you play those two guys at the same time? Because Rob Wright deserves minutes, and I think we will see his minutes grow amongst the season as we go on.
All right, King, last question for you. Great insight, dude. What are you trying to accomplish tonight if you're Baylor taking on Sam Houston? I mean, they've shown, right, that they've shown resolve. You know, they played 2 top 25 teams. Now you get a chance to play a mid-major, whatever you want to call it. As a player, what did you look to accomplish in these games?
Well, here's the thing, Pete. Sam Houston, they're not a slouch by any means. And I think that's one reason why Coach Drew schedules games like this, because he schedules teams in which, if you're a Baylor, you should beat. However, this is a Sam Houston team that has probably picked top 3, top 4 in their conference. And they have a great chance to make it to the NCAA tournament. Their coach is phenomenal. He's had success. He understands how to win. So, like, this is not going to be an easy game. So I think the biggest thing if you're Coach Drew and you're trying to get this team prepared for today is the ability to stay locked in, right? So you go on the road against a top 5 opponent, right? Of course you're going to be locked in for that, no matter what the result is. You play Arkansas, right? You get up for that game because it's a big game on ESPNU, prime time at nighttime, right? And they're a top 25 opponent. Like, how do you respond? How does your team respond when you're playing against an opponent who isn't a top 25 team, who probably isn't a top 50 team, but they're still not a bad team? Can you stay locked in? Can you have that same level of focus, the same energy, the same intensity in these type of games? And I think they will, because they're older, they're experienced. They have guys who've been around the block before, who understand these type of games. But I think that for me, like, that's what I'm looking to see. Like, will they have that same level of focus if you're Baylor playing against a team like Sam Houston?
King McClure with ESPN, always with us in Central Texas. I appreciate your time, King.
Of course, man. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Right,
that was King McClure, former, obviously, Baylor basketball legend, and with ESPN now. He does a phenomenal job. Scotty, I'm going to bring you in now. You know, King is someone who you had a chance to watch play, who you had a chance to root for. What's it like to see him have this other type of success?
Man, it's a blast. Anytime anyone from Baylor gets a national stage, I'm happy for it, right? Like, of course, I'm rooting for all these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's wonderful on ESPN.
Were you surprised when like of all the guys? Because I know you follow it super close. Like,
yeah.
And I wasn't around this area or on Baylor like that.
Yeah.
Were you surprised when someone like King?
No.
Okay. You weren't? Yeah.
No. I mean, and like, there's different avenues guys take. So you follow them leaving Baylor. What's their NBA stock?
Yeah.
And then when it's clear a guy is not going to, crack the NBA, it's like a bunch of those dudes go play in Europe. So I mean, I would bore you to death with the list of players that I followed that played in Europe. Or Baylor had a little contingent in Israel for a while playing professional basketball that was doing really well in Israel of all places. But a guy like Ish Wainwright, goes NFL for a second and ends up back in the NBA, which was fascinating to watch too. But no, I mean, King's always been sharp and a guy that I've respected as intellectually, as a communicator, all of it. So it didn't surprise me in the least that he got the shot and he's killing it, man.
Oh man, it's so cool to see him. He knows what he's doing. His craft now is broadcasting, and he takes it just as seriously as he did playing ball.
If anything, it just makes me happy that ESPN would give a guy a shot, because that was even before the championship team. So even coming out of Baylor basketball, like, let's take that as seriously as a guy who's come out of a Connecticut or a Duke, and give him the same opportunity was good. As a Baylor guy, again, anytime that Baylor brand gets represented in a big way, I'm pumped.
Yeah, I love it. You get fired up for Baylor. I'm fired up tonight. Baylor and Sam Houston. Of course, you can catch it on the Baylor Sports Media or Sports Radio Network. I'll be on the call with David Kay. It should be exciting. They take on Sam Houston tonight. A guy who I'm really looking forward to seeing. He mentioned Norchad Omier. Rob Wright is someone who, we had him in here with us. He sat down doing an interview in here, and that dude is so he's another guy that is a Baylor guy. It's cliche at this point, but like, he's a good dude. Like, being from Philly, I know guys who have been around him, coached him, and they're like, this guy's the best dude. And then you meet him and it's like, wow, he is the best dude. And then you watch him play, especially in that Arkansas game. You know, he made a mistake early where he got trapped, or maybe it was late. He got trapped, threw the ball away. Arkansas, you know, went down the court and scored. And, you know, this is a true freshman playing in only his second college basketball game. And he bounces right back and just gets right into it defensively and sticks his nose in it right after that. And to me, that's something you want to see, right, in one of your young guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Edgecombe being the highest ranked recruit Baylor basketball has ever signed, this is the guy we'd be talking about. He's that good. I mean, he's elite. I mean, I think through the first 2 games, I think he has been my favorite player to watch, just because Omir's been great, but we knew what he was. He's been averaging double-doubles in college for 4 years, right? We knew VJ's athletic. We know who Jaden Nunn is. Like Rob Wright's the guy that, you know, you never know that transition, how they're going to make the jump. And I think he's looked excellent. I mean, true point guard too, right? Like penetrate and kick, can score at the rim. Like, I love it. I love watching. And you got to love it when you go to Baylor, when someone's named Robert, fill in last name, the third. It's just going to work out well. I tweeted that the first, even against Gonzaga, I tweeted, there's something about this name, Robert Wright the third.
What's something that, I guess, well, I was going to ask you something. It slipped my mind. It was a great question too. Oh, how do you feel about, you know, every year it seems like Baylor's got another lottery pick that walks through that door preseason, you know?
You know, that's been a fun, I would say, jump in the program, having watched since Scott Drew came to Baylor and been in college for some of those first really good, like Elite Eight teams. Drew has always been a master of transfers. Even before the portal, he was getting JUCO guards and guards from smaller schools to come in, and that would just obliterate. Look up Pierre Jackson anytime, right? Like, just legend, right? Drew has always been good at that, and he's always been good at development. There's always been the lower ranked kid that comes in and ends up being outstanding. Corey Jefferson was from Killeen and wasn't a super highly rated recruit, left as an NBA guy. I mean, Drew's been excellent in those fields. He was never much of a one and done person. Isaiah Austin, Perry Jones, there were a couple of guys in there. But yeah, the 4 or 5 year stretch now of kids that are coming in, having excellent seasons and leaving is a newer development, and it's fun to watch, man. I mean, in fact, I saw one tweet about Rob Wright that was like, I need Rob Wright to stop playing so well so he is not also a one and done like Edgecombe almost surely will be, right?
Last question for you. Where do you see Langston Love fitting into all this? I mean, there's only been 2 games, right?
But I tweeted this after the Arkansas game too. I don't think we can overrate how much he will elevate the entire team. I think his health and being able to play could take this team from like Sweet 16 to national champion conversation, because advanced statistics would say he could end up being the best 3-point shooter Baylor's ever had. And Baylor's had a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you know, I think one of the things that's been missing from Baylor's game in both games is they have not consistently hit the 3. None hit some big ones against Arkansas, but nobody's gotten super hot from 3. We haven't shot particularly well from 3. Him coming off the bench, not only to kind of lead that second group, but also knock down some threes really consistently, changes the game for this team, I think, especially because Edgecombe's going to be a driver. We've seen Wright's more of a driver. I think Roach is more comfortable on the drive. We got a lot of guards that are going to penetrate. Put someone else out there with none that can knock down a 3. It's over. It's over for America.
Scotty Swingler, there you go, the endorsement.
Sick and Bears.
I like it. All right, Sick and Bears is right. We'll be back tomorrow. The Pete Sousa Show, of course, powered by the Rogue Media Network. Like to thank Slovacic's, Crawford Austin Properties, the whole gang. We'll check you out tomorrow.